The big event this week, the NFL draft, and rightfully so, given the interest that the NFL gets all across the country and the way that the NFL has figured out to insert itself into the news cycle basically 12 months a year. You have the season, you have the playoffs. The Super Bowl is a standalone event from the playoffs. They figured out how to make the NFL Combine be an event worth televising. You've got the free agency period, which everybody monitors, leading up to the NFL draft. Then we have OTAs, summer training camp, then the season. The NFL, the ultimate marketing machine, and really so savvy at figuring out how to be relevant months away from the season. Even the most mundane teams find ways to be relevant when football's not actually being played. So the NFL draft and monster crowd in Pittsburgh, 320,000 people plus for the first round of the NFL draft. It was actually pretty cool. I like that they shortened the rounds. They less than 3 hours, which was incredible. I'll take that. Hummed by. I'm good with it. Worth noting, though, a few things that relate to college athletics. First time since 2015 that the Southeastern Conference did not have the most first-round selections in the NFL draft. 11 years. The Big Ten had 10. Southeastern Conference had 7. The Big 12 had 6, ACC had 6, and then 3 from other conferences. So proof positive of what we've been saying, that the power structure has shifted, that the Big Ten is now the alpha, not just in college football, really in all of college sports. Remember, they own the 3 big championships, football, men's basketball, women's basketball, and oh, by the way, have the number 1 ranked baseball team in the country in UCLA. There are 9 teams from the SEC, and I'm looking at my notes here on my fancy little notepad. There are 9 teams from the SEC currently ranked in the Division I top 25. So still a strong showing for the Southeastern Conference. And, of course, anything can happen once the NCAA tournament arrives, and then inevitably the College World Series. So a lot of baseball remaining. And a lot of news. A lot of college sports news going on, despite the NFL draft sucking all the oxygen out of the room, the way all things NFL tend to dominate the conversation. First, some bad news. Arkansas, the University of Arkansas, a member of one of the big two conferences, Southeastern Conference member, the first major athletic department in the country to eliminate a program in what is now the revenue sharing era. They're getting rid of men's and women's tennis. No more tennis at Arkansas. It's happening. It's the first programs cut by the Razorbacks since they got rid of men's swimming and diving back in the early 1990s. So could it be a harbinger of things to come throughout the country? Athletic departments are going to tighten their belts and figure out ways to save money in order to be able to distribute more of the revenue sharing. Remember, they're capped at, I think, $21.5 million to the big sports, specifically football. But you also want to be able to fund basketball. You want to be able to funnel some to women's basketball if you're a school or an athletic department that has a proficient women's basketball program. I think about South Carolina. So this could be the beginning of something not great at all. And the people, particularly lawyers, who are so anxious to just rip and sue the crap out of the NCAA and wanted to set up NIL when it became a thing, they really didn't think this would happen. They didn't realize, they didn't care that how it would impact Title IX sports. I would expect some women's basketball programs to be eliminated at smaller schools next. I truly would, given the amount of revenue those programs often bring in against how much they actually cost. There's a lot of travel for some of these programs, and they're not banking a whole lot to offset it. Just something to think about. Interesting news out of Louisville. A couple bits of interesting news out of Louisville. They're forming a couple of entities to supplement the athletic department. It's pretty kind of fascinating, and I think it's part of a new trend. They're creating something called Cardinal Ventures. It's a nonprofit entity that will basically be a marketing arm. It's a nonprofit, but it'll handle marketing and things such as that for the athletic department. And they're also creating something that is yet to be named, and it still needs to be approved by the board, but it is going to be a for-profit entity, and it is going to be all about bringing in money. And that makes me think private equity, which seems to be an inevitability in the world of college athletics. Private equity investing in college athletic programs. Could this be, they set up this structure, they set up this venture, and then the next thing you know, boom, you've got some hedge funds coming in, things such as that starts funneling cash in the college athletic departments. We've got Nick Lord. And Nick's a really interesting guy. He's based down in St. Petersburg, Florida. And he is the co-founder and CEO of a company called NOCAP Sports. And what they do is they basically go and help athletic departments and student athletes find revenue streams. They marry the two together, or they'll go in and help athletic departments figure out better ways to fund this project or that project. Going to have Nick come on in a few minutes, and I want to get his take on this news out of Louisville about the two entities they've created and what it means for the future, not only for that university, but for all of college athletics. Could it also be a harbinger of something, of the inevitable marriage of private equity and college athletics? Nick Lord, the CEO of NOCAP Sports, he'll be coming aboard in just a minute. And we're going to stay on the topic of money. This is going to be a very money-heavy episode. So if that's not for you, go ahead, and I understand. You can turn it off now. But if you're interested in the dollars and cents and the inside baseball of college athletics, this is going to be a pretty good one. But I can still get on my soapbox about a couple of things. One, the exorbitant cost of having a coach. We got 2 contract extensions announced this week at the Power 4 level. The first one is Jeff Braun at Louisville. More Louisville news. He's going to be locked down through 2032. He's going to go from $5.3 million to $6.2 million, and then it'll escalate all the way up to $8.7 by the time the contract is running at its end in 2032. And it's to lock him down. He's 28-12 in 3 seasons. He's won at least 9 games each year. He's a Louisville guy that played at Louisville. I mean, he is their prototypical coach, and he's done a good job there, and I think he'll continue to do a good job there. But he gets interest because he is successful. He gets interest from other programs, and he got interest from Penn State. His name was even kicked around for Michigan a little bit. He turned him down. He chose to stay home, and now they're going to, A, reward him, and B, lock down any temptation he might have about going. You get what I'm saying? So that's a good hire all in all, a good move rather, all in all for the University of Louisville. The other one is a little perplexing. This one baffles me a little bit, and I think there are many layers to it that need unpacked or peeled back. I'm not ready to do it. Kalen DeBoer at Michigan, he had 2 years added on to his existing deal. It's now going to run through 2033, January 31st, 2033. He's getting bumped up to $12.5 million a year. He's in rare air now with that annual salary. I don't get it. I know he was mentioned prominently for the Michigan job, but what he's accomplished in his 2 years at Alabama since taking over for the great Nick Saban, does it warrant this kind of extension? These are the kinds of extension that handcuff you if things go sideways, if it goes into a ditch, if the wheels fall off. This is the kind of extension that really paints you in a corner. I'm thinking about Florida State, what it's having to deal with Mike Norvell, and myriad other examples. The buyout right now, if things go sideways this year, and let's say there's this alternate world, this multiverse timeline, blah, 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 like they talk about in the Marvel movies. Let's say there's one of those where the Crimson Tide has I know this is hard to wrap our minds around, a 500 season. Maybe even a losing season. Let's just throw that out there. And they want to get rid of him. To fire him without cause, that means covering 90% of the contract. Would cost Alabama $67.5 million. Now, it's not an unheard of sum. We saw Texas A&M pull the trigger on that with Jimbo Fisher in 2023, November 2023. They wrote checks for $77.7 million. That's Texas A&M. Would Alabama have the fortitude, the wherewithal to do something like that? And the buyout goes down each year, of course. $56.25 million in 2027, down to $45 in 2028, and in the final year it cost $11.25 million to tell Kalen DeBoer to hit the bricks. But to even make a move like this raises eyebrows. he missed the playoff his first year. They made the playoff this past season only to get curb stomped with the worst defeat in history, at least it felt like that, to eventual champion Alabama in the Rose Bowl. And it wasn't even competitive. It was not competitive. Blown out by Georgia in the SEC championship game. Lots of questions. Lost to Vanderbilt in his first year, the first time they had lost to Vanderbilt in more than half a century. There's not a lot of enthusiasm. It just doesn't seem like it's a right fit. And probably, possibly part of it is because he's just not one of them, not one of us from the South, maybe. And we're still getting used to how he operates or his personality. I don't know. I mean, I have no doubt he's a good coach. He made a national championship game while he was at Washington, but is he a fit at Alabama? What was it about this that Greg Byrne decided, I'm going to lock him down? And I have no doubt. This is something that's been going on for months. It wasn't, well, Greg Byrne woke up last week and said, you know what, I'm going to give Kalen DeBoer an extension. No. This started being negotiated as soon as everything went sideways at Michigan. I'm certain of that. That was in early December, late November, I believe, Sharon Moore and his whole deal. But man, I just don't. And if Greg Byrne, I think, might be on his last legs as the athletic director. He's been the AD at Alabama for 10 years. How much longer does he have? Will he see this contract to its conclusion? Will there be more extensions? Will those extensions be warranted? I don't know. But what was it like for Jimmy Sexton, superagent, to go in and negotiate this deal and go, yeah, missed the playoff last year. Yeah, we got in this year as a 9 seed, but we got our doors blown off really, really bad by Indiana. It needs an extension. We got to get him a new contract. I mean, what kind of leverage do you have in that situation? How was he able, given Kalen DeBoer's marginal, and I'm going to say marginal body of work, and everything looks marginal or worse when juxtaposed to the great Nick Saban, everything he accomplished. But I'm saying straight up, marginal body of work as the head coach at Alabama. How did Jimmy Sexton manage to pull this one off? If anybody knows, shoot me a message on X at Scott H Sports. DMs are open. I'm dying to figure it out. And I'm going to try to wrap my mind around it during the break and get ready for a conversation with Nick Lord, co-founder and CEO of NOCAP Sports. I'm going to ask him about private equity in college athletics and what does the new landscape, well, how's it shaping up? What's it going to look like even in 5 years, perhaps 10? Nick Lord, NOCAP Sports on the other side. Stick around.
Sports fans, it's time to gear up. Head to fanstreamsports.com and check out our brand new merchandise store. We're talking bold t-shirts, 3/4 zips, hoodies, hats, mugs, and more. Everything you need to rep your favorite shows and your favorite crew. Whether you're rolling with the J.P. Peterson Show in Tampa Bay, From the Rough in Dallas, the Tim May Show featuring Clay Hall, or the Jeff Thidoff Show in Ohio, or any of our FanStream Sports original programming, we've got the perfect look for game day and every day. So don't wait. fanstreamsports.com. Click merch and grab your gear now. Wear the stream, live the stream, fanstreamsports.com.
Let's go.
Right now, back to the show on FanStream Sports.
Welcome back. And we talk about college athletics. We talk about the games. We talk about coaching moves, this, that, and the other. And at the end of the day, everything is driven by money. That's been a common theme forever, basically. But it's an increasingly common theme now that we're in this age of athlete empowerment like we've never seen. NIL, transfer portal, the house settlement with all the revenue sharing. It's the TV contracts that are out of control. Money, 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 money. Athletic departments strained more than ever, trying to not only pay the athletes, but they also got to pay the employees. And they have all these other expenditures they're having to take on in order just to keep up. Is it sustainable? Is this framework sustainable? And what can be done to help offset some of that? We're going to bring on our guest. He's the co-founder and CEO of NOCAP Sports. Nick Lord, welcome aboard. How are you?
I'm great, man. How are you? Appreciate you having me on.
Well, I appreciate you coming on because when I have these questions, I like to go to the experts. And you, sir, are indeed an expert. And before we dive into the topics at hand, I want a quick explainer on your business because I saw it on social media. I went to the website. I looked at the website. I did some research. I'm absolutely fascinated by your business model. Can you tell me exactly what it is y'all do?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, appreciate you calling me an expert. I don't know if I'd do that. I think a lot of people claim to be experts in this space, and no one really is. But nonetheless, appreciate that. Yeah. So our business been around for about 6.5 years today, and really where we sit is on two kind of sides of the coin. So one side, we're helping universities unlock new innovative revenue streams, helping them build revenue infrastructure. As universities continue to operate more like businesses in today's landscape. And then the other side, we're helping companies of all sizes really navigate this space. So large companies, you think about how they've typically gone about college sports. It's always traditional sponsorships. And for the last couple of years, it's been traditional like NIL type deals. We're going a little bit of a step further where those are a component of what we do, but we're really trying to help companies do business within college sports. And that could mean business directly with the university. It could mean business directly with the fan base. Could mean business directly with the alumni base that these universities, have a massive hold on. So that's really where our kind of business sits. A big piece of what we do is a B2B model that we've built over the last 2 years, where we kind of turn alumni businesses into sustainable recurring revenue streams by taking existing operating spend and turning that into a recurring, essentially, donation to the school. So a lot of our focus is on that, but that's kind of high level where our business sits in today's landscape.
Okay, you touched on something really important. You talk about B2B involving alumni-owned business, and I think that's incredibly critical, because when a lot of people look at an athletic department and how it operates, they assume that A, some of the revenue comes from traditional advertising, and B, the rest is supplemented by donations. And that's probably true to a huge extent. But we're in an age, as I prefaced before bringing you on, where everything is skyrocketing. The cost of this is going up, the cost of that is going up, and you have new expenditures. We're in an age, meaning of also donor fatigue. I'm a donor. I can only give you so much money. You keep coming to me with your handout, especially if you're not winning. It makes it harder to write another check for the university. How does all this tie in together to help offset donor fatigue? Because I have to think, by going to these businesses, these alumni-owned businesses, and said, look, we know you cut us checks to go to the football team, the baseball team, the track team, whatever, but we're going to figure out a way for you to actually get a return on your investment. Here's how we're doing it. Am I reading that correctly? That's kind of what you do?
You are, yeah. You look at how universities have gone about fundraising for the last multiple decades, and it's really just, hey, go to X donors and ask for money out of their own pocket. We've kind of flipped that model on its head a little bit, where we're focused more on donors that own or operate businesses, and the value prop we bring to them, given the partners that we've been able to bring on the B2B side, is on the front end, it's cost savings. So we're either creating cost savings or bringing optimization and efficiencies to their business. And then the school really benefits on the back end of that. So we're just turning that existing operating spend that they're already spending on in the day-to-day into a revenue stream for the university that they don't even really have to think about. And these could be small monthly kind of contributions, or a lot of the deals that we've done are approaching 7 figures per year in contributions. So it does and can make a significant damage to their annual targets for what they're trying to raise and spend.
How receptive have the universities, the athletic department specifically, that you've approached with this kind of model, how receptive have they been? Because I have to think some have welcomed it with open arms, because this age of we got to get what we can, where we can, however we can. But still, when you talk about colleges and you talk about anything in academia, they tend to rely on the traditional way of doing things. They tend to be a little more conservative and hesitant to dip into new waters. How much resistance have you gotten? How much acceptance have you gotten?
Yeah, it's definitely been a mix. I mean, it's a very new way of going about how they've gone about things for the last, multiple decades. So in any situation like that, it's always hard to change that mold. But a lot of these schools realize that they need new ways to generate revenue, and they can't rely on the same, couple of things that they have for a while now. So they're definitely more receptive. I think that the hardest thing is actual implementation. Once it's like, oh, this sounds great, but like, how do we actually put it into play? And a lot of what we came upon earlier is there is a risk factor. You're talking about things that are going to affect a donor's business in the day to day, and that's when it comes down to like really vetting out the right companies that we bring on board. And we've spent a lot of time and built out a whole team to actually vet these opportunities out. And all the companies that we work with are really tier one. So by the time they're getting implemented to that donor's business, we have no real worry that they're going to deliver for that company. But that was where some of the hesitation definitely was early on.
Joined by Nick Lord, co-founder and CEO of NOCAP Sports. Follow him on X at Nick@NoCap. Nick, and you and I discussed this a little bit before I brought you on, and I want to get your opinion on it. When we talk about college athletics now, one of the things that inevitably surfaces has been private equity. Will private equity be a thing in college athletics? We hear about the Saudis with the Public Investment Fund investing into Live Golf, and that it seems inevitable that they're going to eventually look to expand into college athletics, perhaps. College athletics being arguably the second most popular sport in the United States, college football specifically. How close are we to seeing private equity actually becoming a thing in college athletics? How prevalent will it be, and how influential will it be?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's already happening. I know a lot of the groups that are looking to deploy capital into this space, and every conversation that we have with ADs and leadership, it's always something that they're starting to at least think about. Some are already executed on. You look on what Utah did with their I forget what they exactly called it, but their second entity that they created that Otro Capital put money into. You look at what's happening on the Big 12 deal right now. I think that's probably going to go through. So it's already kind of happening. I think it's a long way to I think have universal adoption across the board. I think there's a lot of things universities should be doing in the meantime to position themselves better for that. Because once you take on private capital, that's there's significant risk to that. So you want to make sure that you have the revenue streams in place and in order to take that on, or at least the team in place that is ready to deploy those strategies.
I'm glad you said that. Significant risks involved, because private equity, those are investors. When you're an investor, you want to get a return for your investment. How dangerous is it? I mean, what are we looking at in 5 years, 10 years if private equity does become more prevalent with regards to personnel decisions, coaches' contracts, stadium upgrades? I mean, I that would totally shake the current dynamic. I would have to think the people who invest would be the ones who make the decisions, not the people who are hired to actually make the decisions by the universities in the states.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely risk on both sides of that coin, I would say. But it's something that most schools are exploring at this point. And as if you're on the side of the private equity, you got to be thinking about how you could actually not just deploy capital, but help the universities think through from a strategy standpoint, so that your investment does grow. Or if it's in the case of debt, that you'd get that money back and that return back. So, it's when it comes to college sports and private equity, I think it's a lot less passive. I think it's more on the, proactive side when it comes to how do you actually deploy resources, then help these universities bring in the right people and help them deploy that capital in ways that are going to truly generate revenue. And that's why a lot of what, some of these schools are doing, where they're creating these separate entities. You look at what Utah did, like I mentioned, they're bringing in a lot of different third parties to help generate and create new revenue streams. So I think it's not just something you can do internally. So I think we'll see a lot more of that. I think that's where private equity is going to get deployed in a good chunk. I also think it's probably going to happen more likely on the conference level over time. From what the conversations I've had, at least.
I'm just spitballing here, and I hope I haven't caught you off guard, but I'm wondering this. We talk about private equity, and we talk about it getting baked into the way college athletics will operate going forward. I'm wondering if, and I hate to even ponder this, but I wonder if there needs to be some kind of governmental regulation as to how influential private equity firms, hedge funds, whatever, who are investing, how influential they can be into operations, both for the conference as well as the universities.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. I think you look at, I have some connects that invest into, the NBA, for example, and, not everyone can invest into the NBA. You have to get approved to invest in the NBA. So, having some sort of vetting process in terms of who can deploy capital in this space is important. And then, when it comes to like overstepping and who does what in these types of transactions, I think that, needs to be talked about on the front end. And I think there's got to be multiple parties involved to ensure these contracts are structured smartly and correctly, that it's not going to put, the university in a tough position long term. So yeah, I think those types of conversations need to happen on the front end. And I think creating some sort of regulatory boundaries around who can deploy capital and, how much might make sense. But, that's just, going off the dome at this point on what's possible.
You're smarter than I am, so your answers are spot on. He's Nick Lord, co-founder, CEO of NOCAP Sports. You can follow him on X at Nick@NOCAP. Nick, you're the man. I really appreciate your insight and the way your business operates and in your world. I mean, it's guys like you who are going to be shaping the way college athletics look over the next century or more. It's pretty influential. Do you realize the impact you're going to have?
I like to think so. Man. But this space changes on a daily basis, so it's sometimes hard to think about 10 years from now, or let alone a century from now. But we're just trying to drive as much value as we possibly can each day in and day out. So at the end of the day, hopefully in 10 years, people look back and say we were a meaningful part of that transition. So,
alrighty, Nick Lord. Nick, I appreciate you stopping by today, buddy.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Alrighty, that's Nick Lord, co-founder and CEO of NOCAP Sports. How would you like to be Nick Lord? Young business owner, entrepreneur, and he's one of the young guys who he's never known any different when it comes to college sports. Okay, and when I say that, I mean the only era that he really can wrap his mind around is this current era of player empowerment, play for pay, revenue sharing, NIL, transfer portal, this, that, and the other. Yeah, he was a teen growing up in the before time, but his real formative years, his college years, and now as a business person, that's when things started changing. And I have to think that he adapted perhaps a little easily than some of his older peers. So he's able to maybe think differently, he and his colleagues, about how to extract extract money from different places, create new revenue streams, fund things in non-traditional patterns. It's like I said to Nick, the old guard in academia is so difficult to sway with regards to new initiatives, to talk into doing things differently, to change, to deviate from the ancient playbook. Guys like Nick Lord come in and say, hey, we need to do it like this. We need to do it like that. And we see it at the administrative level some. I think about what the new look athletic director is. He's a guy who's got marketing background. He's a guy who's got entertainment background. He's a guy who's got probably player representation background. A perfect example is Jeremiah Donati at the University of South Carolina. He worked for Lee Steinberg, the super agent, if there ever was one. And he gets it. He understands. He knows that you just can't sit back, hope donors give you enough to cover things, hope that you get funding maybe from a state level or whatever to fill the gaps in your TV deal, whatever the conference gives you, and you make the best you can. It doesn't work anymore. As soon as you make an improvement, you've got to make another improvement to a facility. As soon as you build a building, you've already got to start making it better. And never mind all this stuff to fund rosters. Look at what Arkansas is dealing with. Arkansas is in the Southeastern Conference. Arkansas has Tyson Chicken money. It's got Walmart money, and yet it's having to eliminate tennis. Why? Well, they want to put some money into that football team. They want to put some money into that John Calipari coach basketball team. That's how it works, and it's only the beginning. We're going to see more programs either completely eliminated or reduced to being club sports. That's a fact. It's a sad reality. It's where we are, but it's just a reality. We have to learn to accept it. What was will not be, probably will never be again. And we have only ourselves to blame. With the structure that we have now, nobody had the foresight 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago to realize that this would be the gradual evolution, that this is how things would progress, that if we don't start giving them something now, they're going to want a whole lot later, they being the athletes. And that's what we've got. And I have no problem with the athletes being compensated. I have no problem whatsoever, but we have no guardrails. We have no guidance. We have no blanket regulations or rules. So it's still just a Wild West, and everybody's just trying to get as much as they can, however they can, wherever they can, whenever they can. It's a lot to wrap our minds around. I'm going to try to do it. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate you for checking out this podcast. Please do what you do for podcasts. Hit like, subscribe, follow, whatever. Please do it. Leave a comment below or hit me up directly on social media, Scott H Sports on X. Once more, the DMs are open. Questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, whatever. Hit me up. If you have a topic that you would like me to broach, I'm more than happy to do it. If there is a guest you would like me to interview, have a conversation with, I'll do my darndest to facilitate it. Otherwise, until next time, I'm probably going to try to sit back and wrap my mind around some financial issues, because a lot of this still doesn't make sense to me, but it ain't going away. Until next time.